Well, now let's bring in Edward Djerejian, who has been dealing with the Middle East and issues over the past 30 years, both in and out of government. He is a former U.S. ambassador to both Syria and Israel, and he joins us now from the Baker Institute at Rice University in Houston. Mr. Ambassador, thanks so much for joining us today. Tell us, how grave is this situation in Egypt?
This is a critical situation. As you've noted in your reports, the economic weight of Egypt in the region, its impact on international markets, but even more than that, Egypt politically is the most important single Arab country in the world with a population of 80 million people. It is the pillar of the Arab-Israeli peace negotiations with the peace treaty they signed in 1979 with Israel. That is a critical part of all efforts ever since that time to get peace on Israel's other fronts with its Arab neighbors. It straddles the Suez Canal, a major artery for trade, commerce, and energy flows. Culturally, Egypt plays a major role. So what happens in Egypt will have an impact throughout the region in a very major way. I think this is a moment, obviously, of danger, but also of opportunity for the Egyptian regime to basically come to the fore and say that we hear you, we hear the frustrations and the desires of the Egyptian people that are manifesting themselves in the streets. This should be a period now of orderly political transition, opening up political economic reforms, as our Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has
I'm going to break in here for a moment just to ask you on that point. So far, the government's reaction seems quite severe, at least sitting here from the U.S. It looks as if they've restricted access to the internet, restricted mobile phone access. They've imposed a curfew going from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Do you think that President Mubarak's reaction here is the right one if he's looking to sort of address what the concerns are of this population?
Well, that's exactly my point, Lisa. We have not seen a political statement from the president of Egypt or any high-ranking official in Egypt. What we've seen is their reaction on the street. The security forces in the first instance, and now the military. Time is very important here for the government to indicate that it is willing to engage its people on political and economic reforms and an orderly political transition. Presidential elections are scheduled, I believe, for September of this year. What Mubarak says on that will be a key factor on the reaction in the street. But again, I simply don't think, given the size and scope and the political impact of these demonstrations and what we're seeing in the street, that things can remain exactly the same in Egypt. Either there's going to be a crackdown by the military and a period of enforced calm for a little period, or there's going to be a political opening. I hope that there will be a political opening and it can be done in an orderly way. But that's more of a hope than I could say a reality.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. That was former ambassador to Syria and Israel, Edward Djerejian. Thanks so much for joining us today.